Hey, welcome to Subspace Transmissions. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Cam.
Cam on the latest podcast, which was our 200th podcast of all time.
So old. I'm so old.
I know, I can't believe it. But we actually covered our best episodes of Star Trek of all time. We had a fun time breaking it down, but we also got to talking about the episodes that don't quite make these top 10 lists, that maybe deserve a little bit of recognition. One that I'm going to shout out to here is Darmok. This one is, you got Tanagra, you got Jalad, you mix it all together, you get one of the episodes that I think epitomizes what it means to communicate within this 24th century and people coming together. And I just love how we have kind of the sacrifice of this other alien here who we understand that communication is just important to their species as it is to the Federation as well. So I love this one so much.
Yeah, it's a great episode and produced the best Winnie the Pooh meme I've ever seen.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, on my list, I had Blink of an Eye, the Voyager episode. Voyager does not get shoutouts a lot of the time on best lists. Maybe Equinox or, Timeless I've seen on some lists. But
Sure.
To me, Blink of an Eye is just a great Star Trek-y episode about, watching an entire evolution of a civilization. And to me, it has that emotional punch that you hope for. It doesn't feel like a dry academic episode. It really gives you a real inspirational feeling as you join the crew and experiencing this growth, and just has a real sense of wonder to it.
Yeah, and it also made me think of The Simpsons, and Lisa Simpson did it as well, but
yes,
maybe not quite as good, if you know what I mean.
Or maybe it was better.
Okay. Next up on my list, this is one, if you listen to me for 200 episodes on the podcast...
I have pity on you.
I pity Cam myself. I've always bringing up Who Watches the Watchers. This, to me, it goes back to putting the crew of the Enterprise between a bad decision and a worse decision. How do you really try to communicate to a less developed civilization that we are not gods, we are just human, we are mortal just like you? This technology that we have, it's amazing, it looks like magic, the equivalent thereof to you, but come on, please be with us. And Picard goes so far to take an arrow in the head. He's like Steve Martin.
He's a wild and crazy guy. I love episodes like that, or like First Contact, where they are introducing Federation ideals to a civilization in a way that doesn't feel overbearing and weird.
Yes,
because
I know.
Star Trek does that a few times too, especially in the original series. An episode on my list, Enterprise, doesn't get a lot of shout-outs on best lists, and I'm a big fan of the episode Carbon Creek, which shows the Vulcans landing on Earth and spending time there and falling in love with our world. We don't get to see aliens visit Earth and experience it in a way that feels Star Trek-y very often. Usually it's more about, humanity going to other planets. And I love how this episode feels, where we can see how a Vulcan could fall in love with Earth. And why, in case of Carbon Creek, one of them wants to stay behind.
Usually I'm not super invested in these kind of one-off tangent stories that aren't connected to the overall narrative.
What about the one with Janeway's ancestor?
1158, I think.
Where it's 59, yeah.
Yeah, the millennial bug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but this one, I am fully invested in what I'm seeing with T'Pol's ancestor, played by Jolene Blalock as well.
She's very good in the episode. Very, very good, yeah.
I'm happy to give as many shout-outs as I can to Deep Space Nine. We included many Deep Space Nine episodes on our top 10 list, but one episode that doesn't always make it on there is Children of Time. That's where we have the Defiant kind of get split into two different Defiants, one of which crash lands on this planet. And the ancestors of the DS9 crew are there for us to interact with. And you kind of get a bit of a slice of life of their situation, how they developed. Ultimately, their fate, I think, at the hands of a future Odo is pretty awful. Yeah. But I like how there's this world building that goes on with the Klingon subculture, as well as just Odo's own development over these centuries. It reminds me of another Star Trek episode that was actually done quite well as well, but that's E Squared, or E2 from Enterprise, where we got to see a similar sort of thing play out, but in a different sort of way. And I like how Star Trek can do these sorts of stories without necessarily feeling derivative. I kind of got that same feeling when I watched Tapestry, and then it's followed up with another Q episode like All Good Things. Very kind of similar parallels going on there, but it doesn't feel like a copycat of the other one.
Right. For a second, I thought you were going to shout out Time's Orphan from Deep Space Nine, which I know you love.
Yeah, my next favorite.
TOS has produced a lot of episodes that wind up on best lists. And one episode I think that is just fantastic, but doesn't necessarily make best lists, is Doomsday Machine. It doesn't have sort of the high philosophical ideals of a lot of the great TOS episodes, but as, Kirk action hero episodes, I don't think there's a better one, and I think this may be the tensest hour of any Star Trek episode of the original series. I mean, watching Kirk face down the Doomsday Machine, it is just like fist-pumping awesome. And to see Matt Decker covered in sweat and Spock having to, decide whether to stand up to him or not, it's just nail-biting stuff done to the highest order. And I mean, how often can you watch a 1967 TV episode and be like, edge of your seat?
I watch Dick Van Dyke every morning, Cam.